Okay, make sure that it's working. Yep, it's working.
Thank you. God
Okay.
bless you.
So, since this is practice,
Okay.
this is a copy of my resume.
Okay.
Here's a copy of the questions.
If it's something simple, Angela, you come over here and punch me. All right. All right. What do you want to, well, why do you want to teach?
Growing up, I really struggled in school, and I had some wonderful teachers that were there that really, really helped me, and I wanted to grow up and be just like them. And then my first degree is in learning and elementary and learning and behavior disorders, and I realized that I could bring, because of the resources that I had with teachers and the tutors that my parents paid for, I felt like I could bring what I learned from them to the classroom and help kids who are less fortunate.
Okay. All right. What would you describe as your style of teaching?
My solid
Style of teaching.
style of teaching.
Yeah.
Well, it also has to do with my philosophy. I really believe that every child can learn, just not on the same day or the same way. So I really think about the student's strengths and their multiple intelligences, and I try to include their like movement and
Right.
videos and pictures
Right.
and concrete aids
Right.
and games and all those hands-on learning into my lessons.
Okay. Um, how would you like to be involved in the school community activities?
I would really love to create a parent involvement committee so that we can work together and create academic nights. Maybe one night we'll work on reading, another night we'll work on math. Or I know you guys are about to have a kindergarten
Right, readiness, yeah.
bash, and so that parents and the kids can participate in activities that have to do with all their different developmental areas. I also know that some of our students in our population may not have enough to eat,
Right.
or they might not have adequate bedding. So I would like to work with the Family Resource Center and the different community organizations and have food drives and clothes drives and maybe find bedding for the students.
Okay. And you knew we're having a cereal box drive.
Yes, I do. Yes.
What do you plan to be doing in 5 years? What are your career goals?
I would really love to teach preschool, and if I can find a master's that really helps with the special education aspect of
Yeah.
it, so that I can really learn how to differentiate instruction
Okay.
even more than I already know how to do that.
Okay.
So,
Describe your student teaching experiences.
so at my other school, I implemented a lot of math activities. They were game based, hands-on learning. We did a few worksheets, but not a lot.
Right.
We did whole group lessons, and then we moved to the tables. And I mostly worked with the kids who were low functioning
Okay.
and brought in those manipulatives to help them learn their multiplication, or not the multiplication, I should say, addition and subtraction.
Yeah. That's
And
good.
then here, I've been implemented the pre-K on their way, and I've been working when we go into our learning centers, the plan learning centers. I'm always with one of the groups.
Okay. Great. Um, what is your biggest problem in student teaching, and how did you resolve it?
Well, at first coming into student teaching, I had trouble with classroom management and just being able, when I'm working with a small group, I really focus on that group
Right.
and I forget about everything
Yeah.
around me. So I've really learned how to, every few minutes, look up and see
Right.
what's going on,
Right.
so I can
Yeah, because they're
address
they're
those
getting some
behaviors.
things.
Yes. I also really love some of the strategies that I've seen in my kindergarten placement where, just like you guys, you have your expectations up
Right.
on the board and the visual.
Right.
My kindergarten teacher actually had it on the smart board.
Right.
And it was the same
And that's what Kobe does too, doesn't it?
concepts.
Kobe has it on the smart board.
No, she does. She has her
Okay.
regular expectations on the smart board that we
Yeah.
go over, but she also has what you
Yeah.
have displayed.
Okay.
And you guys do a chant with that, which I really like.
I don't do that one.
You don't do that one. Okay. Some of the teachers do. My kindergarten teacher that I just came from, they were on the smart board, and if you saw a child who was looking the other way or playing with their clothes, we would say, "Check your bodies," and the kids would know to look at the smart board and be like, "Oh, I need to have my hands in my lap.
Right.
I need to be facing the teacher." Another concept she had was she would say class when the kids are at their tables.
Yeah.
Kids would know to say yes, yes, put their hands on their head, and look at the teacher and
Okay.
wait for expectations.
Okay.
And then at pre-K, one of the pre-K teachers at the ELC, at the Jewish Community Center where I work at, she has the kids freeze after the timer goes off at their centers.
Right.
They go to the carpet, they regroup, and they talk about, oh, we need to clean up. Then they go back and clean up. So it really clears their mind and be like, oh, okay, I need to focus on what the teacher's saying.
Right. Good. What are 3 words? What 3 words would you students use to describe you as a teacher?
Passionate, committed, and patient.
Okay. Great. How do you individualize your teaching?
So what I like to do is I like to talk to the teachers that the kids already had. I would like to talk to the parents and also observe the kids to find out what their strengths are in terms of their multiple intelligences and make sure that I include those in my whole group lessons, but also in my small group lessons.
Right.
I also like to take anecdotal notes, use the assessments that are district-wide, statewide.
Right.
And also the apps that you might use with your kids to actually note their progress.
Right.
And take all that I've learned and create my small group activities based on what they need.
Like Waterford, stuff
Waterford
like that.
And Study Islands for older kids, but
what is it called?
Study Island.
Okay, I heard that one. How do you feel that the rapid learners should be provided for in their area of teaching?
I think that you need to check, once they complete their activities, you need to check to see if they actually got the information or if they're just rushing through it. Because if they're just rushing through it, then we need to have them slow down and they may need to redo their activity. Also, if they actually gotten the skill they know, then you need to have activities in place for what they can do now.
Okay. All right. What are qualities of an excellent teacher? What of these qualities do you have?
Just like the 3 words that you got to have patience, especially with early childhood, because they're not going to get the skill the first day. So maybe in the first hour, so you need that repetition.
Right.
You need to be compassionate and caring and use a calm voice with them because they're not going to respond well to yelling at you. And again, perseverance and hard work. How works for your kids.
Right. Okay. How would you work with students who perform below grade level?
So again, I would look at their assessment results and then the observations that I have made and create small groups or individualized activities and work with them on the skills that they're not getting.
Okay. Good. What grade level do you prefer?
Little ones. I really love the pre-K.
Yeah. I loved kindergarten. I taught it for 21 years. Describe your ideal classroom.
My ideal classroom is, well, especially at the pre-K level, having appropriate centers. Make sure that my loud centers are not next to my soft centers. Make sure I have a quiet area for the kids who want to go over there.
Right.
I wouldn't force them to go over there, but I would let them know that they have that option. And then I would start with a few centers and introduce those activities to the students and then change them out because I know they can get restless and get bored easily.
You try that like every 2 weeks.
And then I would also make sure that I have visual aids. I have my centers and their containers labeled so that they can learn how to pick up and know where things go.
Right. A student is consistently late to your class. How do you handle the situation?
So I would talk to the family and see what is causing them to be late, and if there's a transportation issue, or I would talk to their family resource coordinator and figure out how we can help them.
Okay. What would you do, or how would you treat a student who refuses to do the work you assigned?
I would figure out why they're refusing to do the work. If it is an academic concern, then I would put interventions in place.
Okay.
I would look at their assessments and create small group and individual activities. And if they still feel like they're struggling, then I would go to other teachers to get ideas. And then if those still don't work, then I would refer them to for further testing.
Okay. Where did I go? How would you handle a student who continually acted up in your class?
Again, I would figure out why they're acting up. Again, it could be an academic area that they're concerned and they may need further testing,
Right.
or it could be because they're experiencing a trauma.
Right.
It could be an acute trauma. If it's an acute trauma, like a new baby or a car accident, I would talk to them how I dealt with those
Right.
things in my life. I would also read picture books so that they can have a visual of how to handle it.
Mhm.
But if it is like they've been abused,
Right.
then I would talk to the family resource. I would talk to the family resource coordinator, the counselor, also the principal, and let me know that we may need to report it.
Right.
And I would keep detailed of what I'm seeing,
Okay.
how they're acting out, what their bodies look like,
Right.
so
Okay.
that I have everything in place for when I make the call.
Okay. All right. Tell us about a lesson in which you have used differentiated instruction.
So recently, Miss Cody asked me to work on counting.
Mhm.
So I had the students count objects.
Okay.
And I had a group, my highest group worked on counting to 30. My lowest, the next group worked on counting to 15. And then I had a group of 5 and 10.
Okay.
And what they do, I had little cards that had pictures on it, and I divided them up based on what number they were counting up to.
Right.
And they used they counted the pictures,
Right.
and they used clothespins, and they had 3 numbers to choose from, and they had to clothespin the number that was important, that represented those numbers.
Okay.
If the child had trouble with clothespin, then I had bingo counters available that they could put on the numbers. And I also used Spanish for some of the Spanish speaking students to check their understanding.
Okay.
And then for my second activity, they counted out their beads based on the number that I showed them.
Okay.
And they put beads onto a pipe cleaner.
Okay. Yeah, they love to do that. Do you make learning fun for students? How do you accomplish this?
Yes. Game-based activities, hands-on activities, interactive activities. If I find an app or a program on the internet, I implement that. I also try to think about what their interests are. If I have time, like if after I do pre-K on the way, there might be a day that I can say, okay, what do you want to learn about?
Yeah.
Maybe they learn about the weather. They
Right.
might want to work about rainbows, and we'll have experiments and again games on
That's
activities. And also, I try to think about how I can bring their real life in.
Right.
Like in kindergarten, a kindergarten lesson that I taught, I read the Pete the Cat book that had to do with the buttons.
Right.
And I had them act out the story. And then we also talked about how they could lose something, and that means that they have less of something.
Okay. All right. Good. What are the key tasks for a Kentucky teacher?
I'm not sure about that
One
one.
either. That one either. Describe a successful lesson. Tell us why it was successful.
Okay, so when I was teaching resource, I taught kids about compare and contrast.
Right.
And I had them first, in order to learn how to compare and contrast before we got to stories, we would had them compare and contrast an apple to an orange. And I would cut it up, and they would tell me how it looks, what it looks like. They would tell me about the color, the seeds. And then on their own, they compared and contrasted candy. And I kept a checklist to let them, like, oh, the student was able to say, this item was smooth, this item is bumpy.
Okay. Great. What do you need to know about your children's backgrounds?
I would like to know about their culture so that I know how to greet them, because I know some cultures you don't look at them in the eye.
Right.
Others you might not shake their hand.
Right.
This symbol in some countries is a no-no. So you need to know what gestures are appropriate.
Okay.
I also want to know about the culture so that I can bring in different artifacts and different stories, have parents come visit so that my kids can learn how to respect their other.
That's great. I like that.
And you also need to know about the home life,
Right.
because you need to know, are they getting enough sleep? Are they getting enough food?
Right.
Do they have their clothing? Because those can also affect their development.
Right. And we don't do the in-person home visits anymore,
yes.
so. What are your classroom rules? How do you make students familiar with the rules?
Okay, so what I would like to do is have them display visual
Mhm.
aids. Eyes are watching.
Right.
That lets them know that you need to pay attention in class. Ears are listening. They have to be, and mouths are closed. They quiet. They need to know that they need to
Hmm.
have their listening ears on so that they're listening, and
Right.
they're also quiet so they're not disrupting their classmates.
Right.
They also need to have calm bodies and have their hands in their lap so they're not touching. And what I would like to do is practice that. If they actually, I model it,
Hmm.
and they also practice it. And
Okay.
we point to the pictures. We might do a chant.
Okay. All right. Great. Um, what daily, weekly routines would you incorporate in your teaching?
So if I teach pre-K, have the kids. I would love have the kids come in. They put their stuff, their belongings away first. They put their lunchbox in the bag that's
Right.
dedicated to that. Then they go and either eat their breakfast or they go and play in tabletops.
Okay.
And then I'll set a timer. When it's time to clean up, we'll have the cleanup song so that they can play.
Hmm.
And then they'll go and we'll have a morning meeting. I know you do Win here, but I know every pre-K is going to be a little
Right.
bit different.
Right.
We'll have morning meeting and I'll have a message about what's going to go on that day.
Yeah.
We'll recite the classroom promise. We'll look over that, review the expectations. We may have a story during that time. And then we'll divide into our planned learning centers, rotations for about 7 minutes. Again, time to clean up. They'll freeze. We'll talk about it. They'll have the cleanup song. Then we'll go to the carpet again and we'll talk about what's going to happen next. Like it might be gross motor time, it might be social emotional learning time. We'll do those items and then it'll probably be time for lunch. And we'll have line up. I might line them up by let's see, are you a boy? Are you a girl? Or are you wearing blue today? Are you 5? Are you 4?
Right. Okay. Great. Um, what is your strongest attribute in the classroom? How have you sustained this strength?
Hardworking. I'm very hardworking and I'm very dedicated to find out what works for my kids. And if I don't know it, I'll go talk to somebody else.
What is your weakest attribute in the classroom? Will you grow in this area?
Well, classroom management was my weakness, and it's still something that I'm growing and just practice putting something in place and see if it works. If it doesn't work, find something else.
Yeah. Okay. Um, tell us about your co-teaching experience.
So at my kindergarten placement, I would do the most of the teaching, and then she would just fill in if she has something to, if she thought of something to say that I didn't think about saying.
Okay.
The teacher would say it.
Okay.
There are times where she was at the dot camera and she would display what we needed to do on the smart board, where I went and checked
Okay.
individuals and see if they were doing what they were supposed to be
Right.
doing and if they understood the concept.
Right.
We would also sometimes divide into small groups, and we each work with a group, the assistant, myself, and my coach.
Okay.
So,
Um, what are your beliefs concerning collaboration?
I think collaboration is very essential because teachers come with different strengths. Yeah, I might be very good at planning reading. Somebody else may be better at planning math.
Right.
And then they can share their ideas and their lessons, and then we go back and review it and see, okay, we need to put differentiated instruction in because we know our kids.
Right.
Also, you bring problem solving. It helps with problem solving. I may have a concern about my kid and not know how to help them, so I can go to another teacher.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Where do you see your career in the next 3 years, 5 years, and 10 years?
I really love teaching pre-K, and I really love my students. I did try to get a degree in counseling and being outside the classroom, and I didn't.
You didn't like it?
It wasn't my thing. I really love being there with the kids.
Right.
So I would just like to further my education and find even better ways to teach our kids.
What instructional approaches, techniques, or methods are most effective for you? How do you know?
Hands-on learning. I think with young kids, it's that hands-on learning. It's that game-based learning because that's how they learn. They need to touch, they need to feel.
Right.
And usually during those activities, I try to keep a checklist to make sure, this child did get it, this child did not get it, and I might have some comments.
Okay. Which management approaches, techniques, or methods are most effective for you? How do you know?
I try when I am I'm doing clinical hours or I'm doing my student teaching, I try to implement the ones that the kids are most familiar
Okay.
with. That's done every day because I don't want to change their routine.
Okay.
What I really liked, what I previously said, I really liked the saying class
Right.
class to get the kids' attention and they drop everything and they look at you, and also just having them freeze and clear their mind
Right.
when they're playing.
Okay. Very nice. Did a good job.
Thank you.
Very
Any strengths, any weaknesses?
You did really. You made great eye contact. You explained all the questions and stuff. You did good. And weaknesses, I didn't really see any, but I have never ever interviewed anybody before in my life.
Yeah, it was just practice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No,
okay.
I think you did great.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Nice doing it. I love the questions.